I do want to just give a little prelude to this before I hand the baton off to Brayton Connard, our Director of Human Resources. Because these meetings are videotaped, audio taped, people attend them, minutes are taken, right? It's very easy for someone to come into a meeting, and if they haven't really been in previous meetings, it's like picking up a book and starting to read it in chapter 6. And it really wouldn't make any sense, because a lot of the things that we do, if you're like, oh yeah, I was there for the last 5-6 meetings, and they cascade in a logical order. But if you jump in the middle, it's like jumping into a book in chapter 6. I say that because this presentation tonight, really, I started thinking about it in late July, because Art Patrone, our deputy DPW commissioner, had let us know that he had been offered a phenomenal position in private industry, and that his last day at the town was going to be August 14th. Now, on August 7th, we were in this boardroom. We'll say this was a previous chapter in the book, and Art was given a presentation. And I commented that Art was the perfect guy for the job from 2017 when he was hired till now in 2025, because his skill sets are that of a construction manager. He actually came from, what do I want to say? Krista. He was our construction manager for Krista on this building and the town hall renovation back in the 14, 15, 16 timeframe. And because the town board at that time knew that we were venturing into phase 1, the $12 million asset renewal over at the sewer plant, it was really an intelligent hire to get somebody who had construction management skills, because Art was able to come in and essentially, manage the sewer plant, but also manage that construction project. And I don't think anybody would have guessed at that time that we would roll into an $85 million phase 2 in the technological advances that we're doing at the plant. But that project is about to tie up in the next 6 to 8 months. And on the 7th of August, I said, where this guy was the perfect person for that job. Now, as we go into the next era, we have this state-of-the-art jewel of a sewer plant, sanitary sewer plant, wastewater recovery, whatever. And back when I took office, it did about $3.5 to $4 million of revenue a year from taxpayers and all of that. We have it budgeted for 2026 at $11 million. It's a big business. And as I said on August 7th, with a little vision of what's going on over at the Xerox campus, it is now out of the realm of imagination that in 5 years, it's a $20 million business. Translation, I said it then, I'll say it again. The town board is going to need to look at a different skill set for what is the position that is going to replace Art. Now, in the time since then, since August 7th, I'm happy to say that with Brayton's help, with Paul's help, with the town board's help, we have basically taken the duties that Art had, and we have been able to backfill them via Rick Canali, our chief plant operator, through campus construction management as it pertains to the $85 million project, and to Paul also in his engagement in this. So I feel very comfortable that we can cover those items through the end of the year, and also actually up through the end of the project, which is scheduled for about July of 2026. But time flies. And what I was thinking during that time in the last 2 months is that this may be an opportunity for the board to look at a different structure for how the DPW department, or what are traditional DPW departments at like-kind towns to Webster, are configured. Now, the end of my prelude, I don't want to go too long, I already have, is that this is something, the workshops that we've done in the last 6 years since I've been supervisor have been really used to, I call it, grease the skids of possible actions in the future by this board. We do presentations, we basically get some Q&A from the board, the community gets to look at the slide decks, and we get some feedback to see, is that a worthy action to move forward on? And I think that that's a good way to handle these workshops. And I think if you look at 2019 and prior, there was a different philosophy on what workshops were used for. But tonight is a milestone event because it's October 2nd, and this workshop presentation is the first, maybe of a few in the next 3 months, that without a doubt, the action that we're greasing the skids to consider is not going to happen while I'm the supervisor. So this is something that, because it's taped, I hope that whoever are the town board and supervisor in January of 2026 looks at this, looks at feedback, and the baton is handed off to that person's and this remaining town board members to see if they want to pursue what is about to be presented. Long preamble. Braden, I can't help myself. The baton is yours.
All right, thank you. Braden Connor, Director of Personnel for the town of Webster. And the supervisor mentioned that he charged Kelsey Feeney, the senior personnel clerk, and I with could we present to the town board some org charts of what the town of Webster has done in the organization of its public works functions and what do some other towns do. And we said, yeah, we can present some of that information. And so that's what we're doing tonight. Basically, I want to cover the scope of the presentation, and Tom touched on the scope. And then we will review Webster's organizational charts. Kelsey will handle that. Then it'll come back to me for review of alternative town organizational charts. Basically, what are other towns in Monroe County doing? And then we will have time for any Q&A as the board sees fit. So when it comes to the scope of the presentation, the purpose that we were charged with is to share with the town board and the community various examples of how town public works functions are organized. The focus of the presentation is fact-finding. It will not judge the relative upsides and downsides of each organizational model, and it won't include a specific recommendation. And for one reason, as Tom mentioned, this is something that would probably be dealt with in the future under a different town board or different town supervisor. The other is with the time frame that we had. We were asked last week to prepare something for this week. We have surveyed towns, but we have not investigated and met with them and discussed with them exactly what they like about their models and what they don't like about their models. So without that information, I wouldn't feel comfortable making a recommendation because it would just be an opinion, not one supported by research. So, right. So first we're going to review how public works functions in the town of Webster has been done and is currently organized and how that compares to our town code. And then for comparing to what other towns are doing, they generally fall into 3 models, and we'll have the Q&A. All right.
All right, so tonight we're going to review 3 different organizational models. The first one is going to be the current state, the second is going to be the prior state, and then the last one is going to be what is actually referenced in the town code. So the first organizational chart we have up on the screen here is what we are currently doing at the town of Webster. As you can see, there are 4 direct reports to the town supervisor. We have the highway superintendent, the community development director, the town engineer, and the deputy DPW commissioner, who is in charge of the sewer department. And as you are aware, that position is currently vacant. The second chart we are looking at is what was done prior to 2020 at the town of Webster. In this model, we see that there are 3 direct reports to the town supervisor. We have the highway superintendent, the DPW commissioner, and then the chief wastewater treatment plant operator. In this model, the DPW commissioner is responsible for all functions of the community development and engineering department. Below the DPW commissioner, you'll also notice that there is a deputy DPW commissioner, and they are responsible solely for the planning and zoning functions of the town. The last organizational model that we'll look at is what is actually referenced in the town code. Neither the current organizational chart or prior organizational chart matches the town code. It appears that the DPW commissioner was established as the head of the highway, sewer, water, and refuse in the original 1969 town code. It is unknown when or if the town practice has ever matched the town code. Oh, geez.
Sorry.
And then under this model, you can see that there is only one direct report to the town supervisor, that being the DPW commissioner, who is responsible for all public work functions, including highway, community development, engineering, and sewer.
All right. So having seen those models at the town of Webster, there are 3 models. We conducted a survey of all towns in Monroe County, and we received 8 responses from comparable towns, and they fell into 3 common models. What I'm describing as the strong commissioner model, the weak commissioner model, and the mixed commissioner model. The data does not include small rural towns that have elected highway superintendents. Those towns usually have an elected highway superintendent and a part-time town supervisor, so they're not really comparable. And then one thing to keep in mind is that Webster is the only town whose sewer department operates a wastewater treatment plant. No other town in Monroe County operates a wastewater treatment plant. So when we think about what is the size and scope of a sewer department, in Webster, that's a different thing than every other town. All right, so here's the strong commissioner model. In the strong commissioner model, there is a commissioner of public works, and all public works like functions report to the commissioner of public works. And examples of this are the town of Perrington, the town of Pittsford, and the town of Gates. Now, in the town of Perrington, they have division heads or department heads for each one of these 4 groups here. In Pittsford, the DPW commissioner also serves as the highway superintendent. So he is the DPW commissioner, but he has the powers and duties of the highway superintendent. Also, they have a deputy commissioner in the town of Pittsford who is responsible for some of these other functions you see here. In the town of Gates, the DPW commissioner is also simultaneously the highway superintendent and the town engineer. Their DPW commissioner is a PE, and so is able to serve all 3 of those heads. So even though this is a model, every town does it slightly different. All right, the weak commissioner model is, I call it the weak commissioner model because the largest public work units do not report to the DPW commissioner. So you have a DPW commissioner who is not in charge of highway, who is not in charge of sewer. And instead they're in charge of engineering, building, fire marshal, planning, those type of functions. And this, this model would be like the town of Brighton is organized this way. And then there's the mixed commissioner model, where you have a DPW commissioner who is often also the highway superintendent and has what I would call the traditional public works functions reporting to them. So sewer, highway. In some towns, we see parks also. We see parks separated from Parks and Rec in some towns, but not most towns. And then facilities also reporting up to them. And then the remaining functions of the building department, the fire marshal, code enforcement, planning. There's an auto advance on these slides that keeps triggering. So that's why that's jumping around. And they report up to community development division. In some of these towns, engineering reports to community development. In others of these towns, engineering reports to the commissioner of public works. And that's why I've got that kind of back and forth arrow there. So examples of this are Irondequoit, town of Irondequoit, excluding the parks function. It doesn't fall on their org chart. Town of Chili, although again, they're engineering. They don't have an employee as a town engineer. They outsource it to an engineering firm completely. And town of Greece is this model as well. But their Department of Public Works would look just like this, but their community development division would actually be broken down into those subunits. So they have a building department and a planning department, and it doesn't include the Parks Department. So again, just some closing notes. That I've mentioned some of these, that Webster is the only Monroe County town with a wastewater treatment plant. So that affects the size and scope of our sewer department. The comparison doesn't include rural towns with elected highway superintendents. And DPW commissioner and deputy DPW commissioner are at-will positions without civil service dictated qualifications or testing protection. All other public works job titles that we see as the head of these divisions or departments are competitive class civil service. So, director of community development, building inspector, fire marshal, town engineer, highway superintendent. Those are all competitive class civil service positions. So, with that, Kelsey and I are able to entertain any questions that the board may or may not have.
I have one question. I just wasn't able to capture it as quickly as you were talking. You said the Gates Department, the DPW commissioner in Gates has PE. And
Yep.
he is, what were his other duties? Engineering?
Yeah, so the town of Gates, that individual is a PE professional engineer, holds that PE license. And so he wears 3 hats. He's DPW commissioner, and he wears the hat of highway superintendent and the hat of town engineer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brighton. Also, I would like to thank for all the years that you have support with your public service and your dedication and your professionalism as a director of personnel. My question would be is, first of all, how much would this DPW be costing the town? And do we come up with like their salary, the health insurance cost, the pension cost, and the FICA system? And also right now, it is like almost 8% of the total pay. And, for the Social Security and the Medicare that employers, the town, have to pay. So what about other benefits that include into this position, such as free cars and cell phone and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I'll take that question, Councilwoman Wynn. That's an excellent question because costs are critical in the providing government services, and but that is a question beyond the scope of the assignment because the cost depends on what model the town eventually thinks is the right model, right? In some of these models, the commissioner, we were just talking about Gates, they're wearing 3 hats. So, theoretically, you could do it for less overall costs. But if you added a DPW commissioner on top of the existing structure, well, then you're going to have to take into account salary, fringe benefits, and all the rest, which will not be insignificant because it is a position of high responsibility and span and scope of authority. So it would be a significant amount of money.
So you don't have any type of benchmark that you could use. We talking 150,000, 200,000, including benefits. I mean, it's premature perhaps to ask the question, but I do think, it's a valid question that Ginny asks,
It's absolutely a valid question, and I would say that any town should not move forward unless they have the answer to that question. There are comparables available, but we didn't survey for that comparable. If the town said, you know what, we would like to see what the expenses are on some of these models, well, then we would go and do a different set of homework, and we would bring you, those comparables.
and I'm sure when the time comes, if it does, that, that will be looked at very closely.
I would expect so.
Yeah. Thanks for your question.
So it seems like in some of these models, the position wears multiple hats. And I know that depends on like the model you choose, and two, the skill set of the candidates, because you might have candidates that have a unique skill set. Would it, because the head of our sewer division wastewater treatment plant is open, would there be an opportunity to combine the public works commissioner with a sewer lead? Or is that too broad of a scope or too difficult in your opinion of a skill set to find?
Well, I think that your question goes to really why why Supervisor Flaherty gave us the task of bringing forth some models, is that since there is a vacancy there, one of the questions is, what is the organizational model that is going to be successful for the sewer department for the next 3, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, right? And if you're looking at that, it begs the question, how does that sewer department fit into essentially what I call the public works function of the town, right? Is it a thing of, we'll keep the exact same org chart we have today and just seek the right person whose set of qualifications and experience meet the needs of the sewer department? Or is it, you know what, this is a good time to look at realigning how the whole function is handled, right? Because the town code says one thing, what we do is something different, and what we were doing 5 years ago is also something different.
How is it that you have two structures now and in the past that aren't aligned with the town code? And what are the implications for not having a structure that's aligned with the town code? Does it?
Not having a structure
More
aligned
of
with
a
the town
legal
code, I'm not going
It
to
is aligned.
pass on that one.
It is aligned with the town code now. Because when Barbot and Scott did the project a couple of years ago, and we knew that we were operating outside of the town code, we made those changes back in 2021, 22 to identify that there's a director of community development and there's a town engineer. At that time, there was a proposal to eliminate the DPW commissioner from the code, and I said, please do not take that out. I've been very vocal about this. The best model, organizational structure-wise, is the DPW, in my opinion, is the DPW commissioner reporting to the supervisor, and none of those other departments that are touching DPW reporting to the town supervisor, in my opinion.
So I don't have any further questions, but I do want to commend Supervisor Flaherty for having the foresight not only to bring this up, but also to recognize and to push the discussion forward to the next incoming board. So thank you for that, sir.
Not a problem. Any other questions or comments on this? Because this will get memorialized with minutes, and it may never see the next chapter of this book. Or in January, February, the new supervisor, new board may say, let's dust off that October 2nd meeting, because there will come a time where there is going to have to be a discussion amongst the town board. It will be after my time on what is the replacement of Art Patron's position. And I already said earlier, it's a totally different skill set than was needed when Art was hired. And that's, like we said, why we brought this to the board tonight, because sooner or later, unless that position just goes away, the town board is going to be tasked with figuring out what is the position they want to hire at the sewer department, or do they want to reconfigure the DPW department to something. So